Takes from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, the show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out about Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, Darren Patterson.
And I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
How you doing, John Trumbull?
I'm doing very well, Darren Patterson. I'm pretty excited because, one, it's our 150th episode.
Woo! 150. They said we wouldn't make it. They said it wouldn't last.
They said it wouldn't last. And I'm also excited because we've got a very special guest.
Oh, we do.
In the virtual studio. It's our very first guest who's been a cast member of Saturday Night Live. We have Siobhan Fallon Hogan with us.
Yes, former cast member of SNL, appeared in on television shows such as Seinfeld, numerous movies, Forrest Gump, Men in Black, Fever Pitch with Jimmy Fallon, no relation, and she was also in the movie Baby Mama, which we actually talked about a year ago.
Yeah, and she was a cast member for season 17 of SNL, which was from 1991 to 1992. Did we get all that right, Siobhan?
You got it all right, and thank you so much, you guys, for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, well, we appreciate you coming on. And you're making the rounds right now promoting a new movie that you wrote and you star in called Rushed, right?
That is right. It's coming out August 27th, and I'm like a dog and pony show doing interviews and TV and all kinds of press, and also calling around to all these theaters all over the country that are doing it to say, I'm literally doing videos for them going, hey, if you want me to, I'll do, hi, welcome to Madison, South Dakota. My name is Siobhan Fallon Hogan. Please come and see my movie. And I love Madison, South Dakota. And they put it on their social medias. So I'm literally 24/7 promoting this movie.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for taking the time for us.
I am very flattered that you're having me. Thank you.
So
yeah. Thanks for being on. This is a big honor. Like I said, you're the first former cast member of SNL we've had on the podcast.
That's awesome. And hey, congratulations on your 150th. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Slow and steady wins the race, guys.
That's right. That is our philosophy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, Darren, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, So, I mean, this is a big deal having a SNL cast member on the podcast. So I don't know. Let's get it. I guess we can get into it. Like, the origin stories of you, and figure out. I guess like at the top, like how'd you get into acting and all that?
Well, when I was a little kid, I'm from a big Irish Catholic family, and my parents really emphasized being funny. Like most parents are like, hey, how are your grades? And ours were like, what story do you have to tell that's funny? So it was hard to get a word in edgewise. My youngest sister, Megan, used to raise her hand and say, when can I talk? So I think with the Irish culture comes storytelling. And when I was in third grade, I was cast in my first play as the last wheel in the Proud Train. Ooh. So I loved being on stage. After that, it was all history from there. And so then when I was in high school, I wanted to go into, I wanted to go to a theater school. My father's like, absolutely not. That's ridiculous. So I went to a little college called Lemoyne College where I did all the plays in Syracuse. And then my senior year, I was supposed to be a teacher. And I was like, hey, Dad, this is where I draw the line. And so I said, I went and I auditioned for graduate schools. I went to Catholic U, got my master's in acting. Then I moved to New York City. I did a lot of stage work. I did like Shakespeare in the Park and all kinds of theater. And then, I was such a weird looking person.
Okay.
Like red hair. And I had a really deep voice. And people were like, you're going to grow into your look. You're going to grow into your voice. But right now, you're probably not going to work till like 35 or 40. I was like, F that. So I was like, okay. So I wrote a one-woman show because I was doing improv at 65th and First at this comedy club called Who's on First, which is long gone. And so I did the show, and it did really well. I got really good reviews. And basically, it was just all these characters that I wanted to play. It had no theme, nothing. And they would write in the reviews, the theme is very clear that Siobhan's trying to make. I'm like, there is no theme. These are just characters that I wanted to do, like a Midwestern stand-up comic or like a cheerleader and all these different crazy characters. I ended up doing it in LA. I rented the theater out myself with my $5,000 that I earned from being a receptionist at a law firm because I had no skills whatsoever, terrible waitress. And long and short of it, SNL came and Seinfeld came and really Golden Girls, and they came and they put me on their shows, and it was like the moral of the story is write your own stuff if you want to fast forward your career.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Wow.
I mean, that's really starting at the top of your profession.
Yeah,
I
well, I
mean,
was basically desperate. So because I would go to auditions and they'd be like, no, I don't know, her voice is too deep for her age. Or, she's got that red hair. I don't know, she's kind of weird looking. And so someone and honestly, I really believe what goes around comes around. And when I worked at this law firm, because as I said, I had no skills, I couldn't even waitress. I would like look at the food and I'd be like, no one looks familiar. I must have definitely like ADHD or something really bad, but I was never diagnosed. But
mhm.
so I was like, I gotta be. My mother's like, Siobhan, I think all you can do is answer phones. So I worked at this law firm. I'm still friends with the guys to this day. Steve Siller is greatest guy. And I would hire all my friends. They'd be like, Siobhan, we need someone to do bookkeeping. I was like, I know someone. So all my friends were actors. I got them jobs. So and we would cover for each other if we had auditions and stuff. So basically, you know, one of them said to me, why don't you write a one person show? And I never wrote. I never thought of myself as a writer, but I was like, okay, so I'm just going to write the characters that I wish I was cast at, but no one will cast me in. And
Wow.
that's what happened with the movie too. So I've done on these one woman shows over the years, right? And like I have three kids. When I had the three kids, I think people were like, I guess she's out of the business. So I wrote another one about having kids. And then 3 years ago, I said, well, I should probably write another one woman show. But I was like, I'm so sick of one woman shows because when you go out to dinner after a one woman show to talk to the cast, you're really just talking to yourself.
Huh.
I was like, you know what? That looks abnormal at my age. So maybe I'll write a movie. And I thought, I've been in the business long enough. I will write a movie. So I wrote this movie, Rushed, and it just kind of came out. It just was my friend who's a writer said, just write, just get it on the page. I
Mhm.
mean, my friend David Goodman, who lived behind me in LA, we're like best friends, and he's the head of the Writers Guild now. He wrote for Family Guy and all these shows, and I did a play with Homer Simpson, Dan Castellaneta. He's going to be in my next movie. So I wrote this movie, and I was like, okay, now who in God's name is going to be in it? So I called up all my friends, Robert Patrick, was in The Terminator,
Mhm.
and Jake Weary in Animal Kingdom, and they're like, Siobhan, we're in. Now, by the way, they were making like $2 a week. I took the movie, then I sent it over to Denmark because I've done 3 movies with Lars von Trier. I just was in, The House That Jack Built, Matt Dillon, and all these movies with him.
Mhm.
And he's like, we're in, we'll co-produce. So like everything kind of like fell into place because I'm not tooting my own horn, but I thought you treat people the way you want to be treated. And when the time comes, they'll be there for you. And that's just kind of the way what happened.
Wow.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
That is
that's great. It sounds like it came together pretty easily.
that is
I
fantastic.
mean, by Hollywood standards, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also
Absolutely.
when you have control and it's an independent film, you you know what I mean? You don't have a lot of people
Mhm.
going, well, I didn't like that scene or I don't want to cast that person. So, when you're independent, you're the boss and you follow your instincts. And if you've been in the business long enough, you know what works and what doesn't work.
Right. Right.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it's interesting subject matter for this movie too, because it's about like a fraternity rush hazing thing that goes awry,
Yes.
and you're like the mother
I'm the
kind of
mom.
trying to find justice. Am I
Yes.
summing that up well?
You were summing that up well. And then it becomes a thriller. It's a huge thriller because when the mother doesn't find justice, she is like the hell with this and takes matters into her own hands. Because, I have red hair, which means you're a little bit crazier than the rest of the people. And I have what they call an Irish temper.
Uh huh.
So when I would lay in bed at night, when my kids, I have 3 kids, they're now 19, 23, and 26. But many mothers and fathers will tell you this, that now with the cell phones, like my parents didn't grow up, there was 5 of us, didn't grow up with cell phones. And I had some pretty wild brothers and sisters. So your imagination could only go so far, I think.
Uh
They'd be
huh.
like, oh, they said they'd be home at midnight. They're not home. 1, they're not home. 2, you start calling the other parents. You can track your kid down. Now you lie in bed. Your kids are out. They go off to college. You use total control when they go to college, but you still have that stupid phone. So you're like, hey, you don't want to be too much of a helicopter parent, which in the
Right.
movie, my character really is. And you're like,
Yeah.
hey, just do me a favor. Could you just shoot me a text when you're home safe? Then you go to bed and you wake up at 2, no text, 3, no text, 4, no text. Then you start to really worry. And if you're like me, your imagination really runs wild. And you're like,
Right.
picturing yourself in the worst situation, right? So that is where the movie came from. Just from me being a worrywart and thinking, oh my God, what if my kid is harmed? And what would I do? And then you realize it becomes a thriller because obviously I'm insane because what would I do? Watch the movie and you'll find out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, check out the trailer. It's pretty
Yes.
cool. So
Yes,
I'm glad to hear that.
By the way, I want to tell you this. The trailer, you Google Rushed, Rushed, movie 2021. It's also on Instagram at Rushed Movie and on Facebook, Rushed Movie, and hashtag whatever the hell that is, hashtag Rushed Movie. I'm learning all the social media stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
I'm glad to hear that this wasn't inspired by like one of your kids going through a horrible Rush experience. It sounds like.
Right. No, thank God.
Because I actually did wonder like how much of this was based on real life because like from what I've read on it, like the mother that you play is Irish Catholic and it takes place in upstate New York, and I believe your son is in this film as well. So I was like, oh,
yeah, my son's in it, my daughter's in it. Sinead, she plays. They both came home from college, which is a really funny story. Because they came home to the house, and when you see the movie, the fraternity scenes are in my house. So when you see Jake Weary at the top of the balcony at the initiation, that's my house.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah. So they came home from college, right? And I said, guys, look at the way I decorated the house to look like a fraternity. And they're like, Mom, this looks like the stupidest thing we have ever seen. And anyway, they fixed it all up to make it look normal. They also, I said, let me just read you some of the dialogue I've got for the fraternity scenes. And I'd be like, hey guys, want to go smoke a boner joint? Dude. And they're like, okay, Mom, that is the worst. So they helped me. My son wrote a scene, Fat Nick, the rapper. He is in the film as well as many other a lot of rap music from these top rappers like OG Macco and Top Hill Fredo. And this rap scene, this drug dealer scene that my son wrote that's in the movie between Fat Nick, Jared Sandler, who's a fabulous stand-up comic, and Jake Weary is fantastic because, it's the lingo that kids use. I guess I shouldn't be really proud that my son knew all the lingo of a drug dealer. We need to look into that.
I don't want to say anything, but...
You want to say anything? But wait a minute. Are you an idiot? So yeah.
I just love that you basically threw a kegger at your house.
Oh my God. You could not have believed what my house looked like. Every night there was 3-ton trucks in my driveway. And by the way, I don't have a long driveway. And there was porta potties everywhere because my husband was a producer on it. I made him take off work for 2 months. I had everybody in town working on this movie. I had crew. I literally put on Facebook, hi everyone. And I'm terrible at Facebook. Hi everyone. I'm doing a movie in like 2 months. Does anybody want to rent rooms? And literally, people were so beyond generous. You could not make it up. They were like, rent? Siobhan, we've got you. Like, I'd have 3 crew members. And if you ever seen crew members, they don't look like people from Rumson, New Jersey. They're like, it looks like the circus came to town. So, by the way, not that I look normal. And people were unbelievable. They put people up. They brought meals. I mean, we had catering and everything, but at night, you get hungry. People were incredible. They really stepped up to the plate.
Wow, that's really cool. And it sounds like you're really helping the local economy as well.
Yeah, at least the local bar did gangbusters. Val's Tavern and Murphy's Bar. Mind you, I could never even go out because I was like getting like 3 hours of sleep a night because I wrote it too. So I was like fixing things at night and then troubleshooting, like somebody who got in an accident and smashed 3 cars, that kind of thing.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, boy. Wow. All right. Actually, I have a question real quick. So, I mean, with this film, this is like a lot more more of a dramatic role for you. And I've also noticed like in your earlier, when you were talking about it in your earlier days of acting, you had you take more comedic roles like SNL.
Yes.
And Seinfeld. So I was just wondering, like, was growing up when you were coming into the acting game, Like, were you trying to be more of a comedic actor or a dramatic actor or both? Or did you sort of, like, how does that arc go?
Well, as I said, I got my master's degree in acting, which is actually really funny because it's a really expensive way to pretend that you're someone else. So I love both. I done Shakespeare. I did Shakespeare in the Park. I learned both, and I really love both, and I love film. So I was pegged as comedic for a long time. I was on SNL, and Avi Kaufman, who's this amazing casting director. If you look her up, she did just like Mayor of Easttown. She did tons of movies, and she was always really good to me. And my daughter Bernadette, who's now 26, she used to get terrible ear infections, and so I had this audition for a Lars von Trier movie. She was about 3 years old, so she's 26 now. It's 23 years ago, and Avi called me in for this role. And people are like, Siobhan, Lars von Trier, he's like the greatest, European director, perhaps maybe the greatest director in the world. You got it. What's the role? I was like, my God, it's a prison guard. I have to cry. Bjork is starring. The film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival.
This was Dancer in the Dark, right?
Dancer in the Dark, yes. And then I went on to do Dogville with Nicole Kidman and Lauren Bacall, and I also did The House That Jack Built with Matt Dillon. Well, anyway, so I go in for this audition. My daughter had been up all night screaming, crying with an ear infection. And I go to the audition, and of course I immediately am able to cry because I'm so exhausted that what else could I do? So it worked for the part, right? Mm-hmm. So because of that, it then opened up doors for serious roles. And I was able to make that cross, which a lot of times you get stuck. So that was a really lucky break for me. And I'm extremely indebted to Lars von Trier and Zentropa for doing that for me. And, I did I say this? I'm so old. I don't even know what the hell I've said it to you guys, but I sent him the script and they co-produced the movie with me.
Yes, you did.
I did say that, so you can edit that out.
So it sounds like you also owe your current career to your daughter's ear infections.
I do. I owe my. Wait. Not only do I owe it to their ear infections, but as you will see in the movie, I remember when I went to Catholic U, they said, you're not going to be able to, like these actor talk. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to know how to draw from your well of anger or hurt or sadness to experience it. I was like, that's such bullshit, right? So then cut to, there's nothing that you go through the roof more than your kids. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like right. I have as I'm sitting here, I'm looking at a picture on my wall in my kitchen. I don't want that picture to be there, but it is there because my son punched the wall once because he was late for football practice. So I had to put a picture over it. So anyway, kids can drive you right over the edge. So I have to thank my kids too for being able to, they say an actor's like a piano with 88 keys. So I was missing like 86, 87, and 88, but I got them because of my kids.
Oh. That's sweet.
Yeah, it's sweet because they can drive you crazy. Yeah. So, no, but I'm
an outlet for
truly, I am so grateful to my family. I mean, being sincere, they have been unbelievable to me. My kids, I brought them all over. They went to Australia when I did Charlotte's Web. They've been to Denmark and Sweden. They've been all over with me. And hey, they learned a lot. And I put them, they're both, two of them are in the movie. One isn't. Bernadette got cut.
Oh, damn.
Hey, listen, she's a reporter at the New York Post. She has front covers all the time. So her ego was big enough. Someone needs to bring her down. Okay. But my family, my husband, he produced. And I also want to give a big shout out to Vibeke Musaya, the director from Denmark, who killed it. And Sabine Emiliani, the editor, who she edited March of the Penguins and many huge, huge movies. She edited this movie that I did with Johnny Depp called The Professor. Mm-hmm. And I called her up and I was like, because we had 2 days left on the film and we were going to upstate New York. I wanted to get the foliage,
Right.
And because we filmed most of it in Rumson and Middletown and Red Bank. And we're in Binghamton, New York. And Vibeke, the director, says, Siobhan, we have an A-list film and we don't have an A-list editor. What are we going to do? And I was like, wait a minute, think. I've been in this business for 550,000 years. I must know an A-list editor. So I was like, wait a minute. Sabine Emiliani from France edited this Johnny Depp movie called The Professor that I was in. She used to text me and email me and call me all the time. because she thought what I did was funny because I played like a drunk that fell in the bushes and it was insane.
Mm-hmm.
So I call her from Binghamton, France. Hello. I said, Sabine, it's Siobhan Fallon Hogan. My God, how are you doing? I said, listen, I wrote this film. We don't have an editor because I never thought that far in advance to post. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was like, got the movie done, got it cast, got it shot almost 2 days ago. She goes, I can't do it. I have doing a film. But let me read it. Send it to me. The next morning I wake up, Siobhan, I'm all in. So I went to France to edit this movie just before COVID for 2 months.
Oh, wow.
She did an incredible job. So, it was really, the cards fell into place. And not only was it lucky, but I've been praying my rear end off for years, and I feel it's like divine intervention. I was really, really helped along by God.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That's really something else. That's, yeah, you should definitely be proud of just, seeing the process through whatever happens with the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just, even just, seeing it through and getting it completed, that's an accomplishment in and of itself.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I want to tell you regarding SNL,
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Fraser, who I met on SNL, who then became one of Lorne Michaels' producers on many of his movies. She's one of the producers on the film.
Oh, cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Speaking of SNL, we should probably get into that too.
Yeah, you should. Being that's the name of your show. You're like, stop talking about your dumb movie.
No. I mean, we're interested in what you're doing now.
Well, I know
as well, of course. But yeah, I mean, so you did the one woman show, and so you said Seinfeld came to that. Some people from SNL came to that. So what? After you get the audition, what is the actual audition for SNL like?
Okay, so I fly to New York City, and there's like 15 other girls, and the audience is all the cast members, producers, NBC. So it's like slightly tense. So it's, you got Dana Carvey and Mike Myers and Adam Sandler and Chris Rock. They're all watching you. So you have like literally 5 minutes each. So I basically took characters that I had done from, my one woman shows or that I wanted to do with like a bag of wigs, like I was like dog and pony show. And then I just did each one of them. I used to do Katharine Hepburn. I was like, oh my God, the calla lilies are in bloom again. Look. And I just went from character to character to character. So then that night we all went out. That's part of being an SNL, going out. It's so nocturnal. And the guys were like, Chris Rock, greatest guy, and Adam Sandler, they're so great. And Chris Farley was a very good friend of mine, like, Siobhan, it's you, it's going to be you, it's going to be you. And I was like, ah. So I remember I think I found out at like literally like 7:00 in the morning.
Wow.
And I was like, holy smokes. And I called my dad, my mom, and my mom's like, Siobhan, he's golfing. So I was like, crap. So I called the golf course. And everybody knows everybody upstate. And everybody knew my father. My father, Bill Fallon, he was like notoriously hilarious in Syracuse. And I called the golf course and they're like, Siobhan, he's out. We'll send somebody out in a cart to get him. So they bring him in. I was like, Dad, guess what? He's like, what? I go, I'm going to be on SNL. And he goes, dynamite. Out of sight, Siobhan. Top shelf. You're top shelf, sweetheart. He goes, guys, my daughter's going to be on SNL. And he goes, all right, well, I got a game to play. I'll talk to you later. Love ya. And he hangs up.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So sweet. And then I remember I had to start like just about immediately. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no cool clothes. I'm not cool. What in God's name? And so I started and that was it.
Wow. And up to that point, like, was getting on SNL like the goal? Were you a huge fan of SNL?
Totally. Like, I loved SNL. Gilda Radner was my hero. I just wanted to be on the show because I had done a ton at that point of improv. I was in the Groundlings in New York City. Then they shut it down. I don't know why the Groundlings never went over in New York. Oh, wow. Then I went out to LA. I did a play out there where I played a ton of characters about Harvey Piker. I don't know if you know, he is very, very well known. American Splendor with Dan Castellaneta, Homer Simpson. And I had done all this comedy and tons of characters, and that's what I did, So I wanted to be on SNL so badly, and it was just like I was like pinching myself.
Wow. And you came in at an interesting time too, because it was like right after Jan Hooks and Nora Dunn had left the show. So they were looking for more
Yes,
women because like just Victoria Jackson and Julia Sweeney were
that's right.
uh, carrying over.
That's right. And it was a huge time because Dana Carvey and Mike Myers did Wayne's World that year. So they
Ah.
were the cast was like breaking into these movies, and it was tense,
Hmm.
intense and intense. And I
Yeah.
was very grateful.
And it's really it's like sort of right when that paradigm shift is happening. It's kind of shifting over from the Dana Carvey, John Lovitz era to where the guys like Sandler and Farley were kind of taking over the show, right?
Yeah, and Chris Rock, and it
Hmm.
was, kind of the young blood was coming in, and so it was a mix.
Yeah.
And it was truly like, I don't know if you ever read the Dr. Seuss, the Starbelly Sneetches. Like there's that book where, some of them have an X on their stomach and then the X becomes popular. So then you want the X off your stomach or on. But anyway, there was the junior cast and the cast.
Uh huh.
So, but, it was very competitive.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. And
So
believe me, those guys were like, Chris Rock was so supportive. He'd be like, I got engaged that year. I met my husband. He lived in New York City, like a block from me. I knew him for about 4 months, and I got engaged. He used to bring the New York Rugby Club to my dressing room because you could bring as many people as you wanted to your dressing room, which I shared with Alan Cleghorn. I was like, I said you could bring a few friends, not the entire club. And why is my sink full of beer? But anyway, so this is ridiculous. I was like, excuse me, would you mind if I go change into a different costume? But anyway, Chris Rock used to call me Ringy because I was engaged.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, Ringy, Ringy, don't let him mess with you. You're funny. You're funny. You know what you're doing. And, those guys were great, really great. David Spade, Tim Meadows, that young crowd was really supportive, and really genuinely supportive.
uh huh.
Yeah,
That's great to hear. I mean, because you would be afraid that they'd be like these frat douche bro guys, but yeah, no, it's good that they had your back.
Absolutely.
And you also came in with a number of other women like Ellen Cleghorn, like you said, and Melanie Hutzel and Beth Cahill, both started around the same time as you, right?
Yes. Yes. Wait, I'm opening a seltzer, so you're going to hear a weird sound.
Okay,
Okay. Because I know I'm supposed to mute that thing, but I don't know how to do that. I'm technically challenged.
it's
Okay.
fine.
So this is what happened. Ellen and I were cast, and then later in that season, they brought in Melanie and Beth Cahill.
Uh
Yeah.
huh.
hmm So yeah, it was like fighting to get on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it must have been tough to. I mean, I'm sure it's always a struggle to find airtime and get your sketches on, and I'm sure you had like many darlings that never made it to air or made it to dress but didn't make the final show, right?
Yeah. I mean, David Spade and I had this scene. Of course, I to this day thought it was the funniest darn thing. It was 10 items or less, and I would. It was my idea, and it was. I have to take my claim to my. Isn't that pathetic that I would actually just have said that? So anyway, so
It's fine.
David and I would try to get it on. And it was like a woman like from the Midwest. And it was supposed to be a store like with just like one little aisle. And David stood right next to it and lived like one little door. So it was like tiny. And be like, no, and I'd be the cashier. And so someone would bring like a 6-pack and a piece of gum. And it was called 10 items or less. And I was like, no, wait just 1 second here. Don't try to get that over on me. There's 6 beers in that 6-pack and there's 12 pieces of gum. You get over on that other line. And it never got on. And we thought it was so darn funny. And then I remember Adam and Chris Rock wrote this scene. To this day, I thought it was so darn funny. And it was supposed to be Fox because in those days, remember, it was ABC, NBC, CBS, and
Right.
Fox was new. And not to date myself. So they did it, like they were supposed to be big Hollywood producers from Fox TV, and they were starting a new comedy show. And so they asked me and Farley and like I think Adam, they were going to be in the sketch as well. They were the producers to be like to be young actors auditioning for the new sketch comedy show. And they're like, you guys just come up with your weirdest characters and do it. So I used to do Bert Lahr. This is the King of the Forest, the lion from the King of the Forest. So I was like, if I were the King of the Forest, and do this ridiculous character, right? So in the read through, you're with like Al Franken and all these like Rob Smigel, these like Harvard educated, really sophisticated writers who are writing these like, really smart comedy. And I'm there, distorting my face doing The King of the Forest. And of course, Adam and Chris and David and, our young group, Chris Farley, thought it was hysterical. And it's funnier because if other people don't think it, how that's like, it's even funnier if someone doesn't think it's funny, but you think it's funny. So then you're like losing your mind laughing. Anyway, long and short, it didn't get on. It did not get on. But then in weeks to come, I'll never forget Madonna was on some show. And, you'd only had a half an hour between when the rehearsal ended, the rehearsal show, which had 20 sketches. And then there'd be a half an hour where Lauren gave notes. And in that half an hour, they would cut 8 sketches. So it was like, you're going to the chopping block. It's like, am I going to be a hero this week, or am I going to be a big fat loser? So in we go. And but this is like a couple weeks later, and he'd be giving a note on a scene that's going to get in. He's like, Siobhan, the only thing is I'm getting a little King of the Forest from that. If you could go easy on the facial expressions. And I'd be like, you guys, I'm going to kill you. They're going to talk about that stupid sketch for the rest of my life. And they're thinking of me as like the distorted lion.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, those didn't. Well, those sketches didn't get on. But I know you're mostly known for the Delta 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 sorority girls sketch with Beth and Melanie. So, like, who was behind that? Like, was that something like you came up with, or you guys came up with together? Or
no, Melanie Hutzel thought of that sketch, but I would help write. So we would be like, the girls like huddled together, like we've got to get on, and so. We wrote that sketch. And then, once Melanie came up with that idea, then there's so many, of course, hilarious things that go along with being in a sorority. And I remember we used to get letters like, please leave the Deltas alone. Can't you go after the DJs? Like from different sororities, like begging us to stop mocking them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that was a thing. Holy moly.
As a matter of fact, with my film, Rushed, being about fraternities, people are like, does that tie in? That's so interesting. And I'm like, it totally does not tie in, but I'll pretend it does if it'll get some more people in the seats.
You should have given Beth and Melanie cameos as mothers of sorority girls or something like that.
I know, I should have thought of that. Darn.
But you also worked with like a lot of interesting people. As the hosts and musical guests, I know you have a story about Michael Jordan, who hosted the season premiere that year.
So first show of the season was also Michael Jordan's, and everybody loves Michael Jordan, and so here he is, and he and I are in the De Bears sketch, that was really popular at the time, and George Wendt was in it, and Mike Myers, and so we have the rehearsal. And as I said, then the half an hour in between, and I go on stage, and Michael follows me shortly after, maybe 30 seconds after. So Michael is really nervous, and he's like, "Oh my God, Siobhan, I'm so nervous," because he's a basketball player, and he's top, no pun intended, top of his game in the world, but now he's going to be on SNL, and he's probably thinking, "My God, I cannot make a jerk of myself." So I said, "Listen, Michael, most of these people are stand-ups, but I'm not. I'm an actress. I've had a lot of training, and I'm going to give you a piece of advice. But what it is something that you cannot think about right now. I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper. I do not want you to look at it until literally 30 seconds before you go on. So don't open that piece of paper till I walk on, and then you'll read quickly and come on. It's going to help you so much. It's going to get you through the scene." He's like, "Okay." So I write on a piece of paper, "Don't F up." But I write the word out, And so now it's the show live. And I go on and I turn and glance at Michael, and he opens up the piece of paper and he reads it. And of course he is laughing as he enters onto the stage. And then he came to Syracuse, New York, years later, maybe 5 or 8 years later. And his manager has a building named after him at Syracuse University. Falk, F-A-L-K is his last name. Not to be confused with "Don't Falk It Up." So it was to benefit arthritis at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. And my brother-in-law, Art Bigsby, is very big into that foundation because his mom had been very sick with arthritis. So Michael Jordan comes on the floor of the Dome and takes a couple shots, to attract people to come. And my brother-in-law says, Michael Jordan. And he ignores him. Michael Jordan. He ignores him. Siobhan Fallon Hogan. He goes, hey, what's up? So he turns, they talk, and he goes, and Michael tells my brother-in-law, he says, I'm Siobhan's brother-in-law. And he tells him Michael tells Art the whole story. And they're laughing on the court. Cut to 2 days later, my brother-in-law's in court, and this tough judge from Syracuse, who's known as a real hard ass, says, Art Bigsby approached the bench, and he says, can I ask you a question? How the heck did you make Michael Jordan laugh so hard? And so he told him the story. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, not too many people can say that they got into Michael Jordan's head like that.
Is that crazy?
That is nuts.
That's incredible.
Yep.
So who were some of your other favorite hosts to work with that came through? I'm
well, I love
your season.
Love Steve Martin because he's a class act and hilarious.
Right.
And let me think.
That was the show that started with the Not Gonna Phone It In Tonight musical.
That's right, the musical.
Yeah.
And I had fancied myself as a musical theater performer. And so I didn't have a high enough voice. I couldn't make it on Broadway. And so anyway, yeah, so that was a riot. And Chris Farley, he and I were like up front and singing our guts out. And of course, Bruce Springsteen was on, which is major. And my husband and we were told to stay in our dressing rooms, that no one was allowed on the floor that night because they didn't want anybody on the floor. Normally, they would let guests come on the floor for the special guest singer. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in my dressing room, and that particular night, I said to my husband, I was only engaged at the time, listen, do not bring the rugby team tonight because they're really making this shut down because Bruce Springsteen's here, Tom Hanks is the host. Just so he brings his brother. So Bruce Springsteen strums the guitar and is like, broom, broom, broom. And my husband and my brother-in-law, Vinny, they look at each other with wild eyes and make a beeline for the floor. And I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. I am literally new to the cast and I'm new to the cast. That's my family background. I'm new to the cast and I'm chasing down the road, down the hallway, my husband and his brother as they enter the floor where the show's going on. And Bruce Springsteen's like, I'm going down to Lucky Town, down to Lucky. And they rush the stage. And with them, the entire audience follows. And my parents literally are in the audience that night. They have my 2 seats because you'd always get 2 seats. And if you watch that, which is so great for me because my father's long gone now, but you can see him pumping his fist Springsteen as my husband and his brother are in the front row.
That's the most Jersey story ever. I love it.
And I live in his town now. I live in Rumson. So it's crazy.
That's very cool. I'm looking through the other hosts that you had during your season on the show. We had Roseanne Arnold and Tom Arnold.
Yes,
at the height of their fame. You must have some stories there.
Oh well, Roseanne was in the tried out scene, mm-hmm. and she was great. She was great. She's hilarious. I mean, she was really supportive of it, And yeah, so she was fun. And let me think who else was. Sharon Stone was on. Right. Tom Hanks, Steve Martin. It was unbelievable. James Taylor, who I loved, I remember. And there was a bunch of like rappers that my kids are like, you met Tupac? And I was like, I didn't even know who he was. I was like, who is this guy? But yeah.
That's very cool. I see you also had one of the original cast members come through, Chevy Chase.
Yes.
Hosted in January of '92. Now we both read the Live from New York oral history book, and it seems like a recurrent thing in that book is like kind of Chevy Chase comes through and It seems like every generation cast has a Chevy Chase story. Did you come out of that experience with a Chevy Chase story?
Well, Chevy Chase came in, and we would all gather in Lauren's office every Monday when the host would come in,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to tell your ideas. And Chris, and he was kind of serious, Chevy Chase.
Uh-huh.
And Chris Farley, everybody's like, yeah, I have this idea, because I really feel like, this is reminds me of Nietzsche. And anyway, so it gets to Chris Farley, and Chris is like, I'm not much of a reader per se, and blah blah blah. And he slaps his head, and it was so friggin' funny because Chevy Chase was kind of serious,
Uh-huh.
and it was like a little tense, some like Jerry Seinfeld when he was host and Larry David, they're hilarious people and easy socially, you know what I mean? But some of these guys were just, a little tougher. So the room would be, as I said, I love when you're with funny people and then it's like a dysfunctional family and then someone's a little bit more serious and then it's even funnier. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So Chris was like the wild guy who was like, always cracking the room up no matter what, because he's hilarious, on and off stage.
Well, that's very cool. That's
Wow,
that's very cool. Did you have any other favorite sketches from your time there that you were in?
Well, this is so funny, but remember, I don't know if you're a Massive Head Wound Harry when was Dana Carvey and
Of course,
Farley and David. Yeah, and the dog, whatever happened, the dog had to have some special type of thing that, food on the head
Right.
wound. And so the dog was practically like eating Phil Hartman, and it was just insane. And then I was always the judge in the scene. So Chris Rock used to call me Judgy Wudgy.
Wow.
Like giving you nicknames, it sounds like.
Yeah, Dringy, Judgy, Wudgy.
I know, it was insane.
Yeah. I mean, the Massive Head Wound Harry sketch, it is pretty classic. I mean, I remember watching that as a kid, and just the image of Dana Carvey with an open, gaping wound in his head is disgusting enough. But then you add on to it the dog licking it, and then the dog. I remember as a kid seeing the dog literally tugging on it, and he almost pulled it so hard that Dana had to hold it in place so it didn't fall off completely.
Yes. And also, as I'm talking to you, I remember when Macaulay Culkin came on, and he had just done Home Alone, and he was such a sweet little kid, and his brother was on, Kieran, who I'm such a fan of, actor. He's such a great actor.
Yeah.
And it was just it was just crazy when you think about it,
Yeah.
all the singers and the Garth Brooks had just broken, and he was like, I'll never forget, he opened the door for me. He was like, there you go, ma'am. And I was like, ma'am? I'm like, I'm in my 20s. What is happening? But it was really incredible.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a really incredible time.
Yes.
And I see on that Macaulay Culkin show, Tin Machine was the musical guest. So you got to meet David Bowie, I'm presuming.
I know. Is that crazy? Well, you should see. Let me tell you something, you guys. So I went to the 40th, and my kids, I take turns kind of letting each one come to something special. So if it's your turn, it depends on what comes up. So you could luck out or not luck out, right?
Gotcha.
It was my son's turn. So he was a junior in high school, and excuse me, he's in the talks and everything. I thought, okay, I'm going to make this my mission to have Peter meet every single, famous person and get a picture with him, because I know he'll get such a kick out of this. So I was just completely shameless. I was like, hey, hi, how are you? And, he had pictures taken with everybody, Zach Galifianakis and Jim Carrey, and, we have them all. Will Ferrell was so damn funny. I love him. And I had not met Phil. I mean, Will, listen to me, I'm like, Phil. I had not met Will. So I was like, hey, Will. And he's like, hey, Siobhan. And I had just auditioned. This is so funny, for Alvin and the Chipmunks. I go, listen, I don't want to brag, but I just had a very important audition for Alvin and the Chipmunks 3 as the neighbor. And he's like, now, Siobhan, tonight is not about you. We're going to be talking about Alvin and the Chipmunks and how you killed it in the audition. Okay. So I said, no, Will, we're not. As a matter of fact, what we're going to be talking about is my son. And so he's like, said, my goal tonight is to take as many pictures of him with as many celebrities so he can brag to his friends back home. He's like, Peter, come here. And he goes, we're both in tuxedos. Like, you're a fine American young boy. So what you and I are going to do is get in a fist fight right now. He's like, what we need to do is shake this place up. So put your dukes up, and we're going to get in a little fight now. I mean, he was so damn funny. And then I was talking to Rihanna. Rihanna came over to me.
Wow.
She's like, oh, I just have to tell you, I can't believe it. I love Men in Black. And I was like, what's your name? Because, I'm like my mother. I didn't even know who she was. She's like, I'm Rihanna. I go, oh my gosh. I go, you have to meet my son. I go, I think he really likes you. So I'm like, Peter, come here. I go, this is Rihanna. He's like, I know, Mom. And she's like, can you believe your mom is famous? What was that like growing up with a famous mom? And I was like, yeah, Peter, you idiot. So one really funny story is, and it's sad, but my son, there was a girl in town, great, beautiful girl named Allison Raywood, and she had cancer, and she was very sick. She was only a junior in high school. And my son's a good guy. And he got the whole football team to sign a jersey for her and went over and brought it to her shortly before she passed. And so he had this whole beautiful jersey and big thing from the whole team. And, she was really touched. And she said, guess who did a Make-A-Wish for me? And it was Kim Kardashian and her husband. Now, what the heck's her husband's name? See, I don't even know to this day. I know he's somebody famous. What's his name?
Kanye.
Okay. So I go over at the premiere because now I'm on fire. I'm like, oh my God, everybody's getting their picture taken with Peter. Peyton Manning, I'm like, hey, don't you play football? So anyway, so I go over to Beyonce. And this is how out of it I am. I'm like my mother. I don't watch TV. I'm like the opposite of anyone you've ever met that's an actress. And I'm like, hi. And she's so nice. And I said, I just want to introduce myself. My name's Siobhan Fallon Hogan. I was like, I was on. She's like, yeah, I know. I said, I just want to tell you what you and your husband did for my son's daughter. The daughter of my friend and this girl from Rumson, New Jersey, who's very sick 2 days ago was amazing. And she's like, what in God's name are you talking about? I mean, she's thinking this. She's not saying it because she's too nice. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I'm not quite sure I know what you're talking about. And I explained the whole story. And she's like, I didn't do that. And I go, wait a minute. What's your name? And she's like, Beyonce. I go, oh my God, you're really famous. I go, I'm so sorry. I go, you're a singer, right? And she's like, yeah. But she loved it because everybody knows who she is and it harasses her all the time. Now I can hear my son going, my son comes over, he's like, Mom. I was like, Peter, listen, this is Beyonce. I said, I thought she was the one who did that recording for Allison, but she's not. And he's like, I know, Mom. So of course that was the story for like 2 years that my kids were like, Mom thought Beyonce was Kim Kardashian. I'm like, I don't know. They're both beautiful. What the hell do I know? I don't know who these people are.
They probably get that all the time.
Oh yeah. They're not recognized ever. And then afterwards, of course, I was like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. But who cares? Honestly, I think it was refreshing. I think it was refreshing because she's probably sick of being harassed.
Exactly. It's probably a nice novelty for her to not be recognized. So.
Right. She's like, what planet are you from? I'm like, I'm from Jupiter. We just moved to Saturn, though. We're relocating, so I'm tired.
Oh, wow.
So, well, you mentioned you were also in Men in Black. The Tommy Lee Jones uses the flashing thing on you. And
oh, yes.
And Will Smith tells you to redecorate.
Yes, Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. We were in the Men in Black, and it was shot on the Little House on the Prairie set.
Oh, wow.
And my daughter, Bernadette, was only about 18 months old. That's how long ago it was. And Barry Sonnenfeld, greatest guy, greatest director. So funny, such a great guy. And they couldn't get the truck up the hill to because it was raining like cats and dogs. And the dirt in LA doesn't have traction. It's more like clay than Eastern dirt. So even if you have like tires that are major tires that can grip the ground, they can't get up the hill. So day after day, they'd be like, can't get the truck up the hill. We can't do it. Finally, we do it. Now, also, Vincent D'Onofrio, of course, is playing my son who turns into the alien. And I am out of my mind at this point because I've been out there for like 3 weeks, and I thought I was only going to be there like a week. And I have a baby back home that is going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And so Barry's like, Siobhan, let me ask Vincent if he'd let you shoot your side first. Because when you're in a film, the bigger star always goes first for their close-up.
Right.
Well, he asked Vincent, and Tommy Lee Jones is like, let her, she's got to go to her baby. Let her do it. And Will's like, yeah, come on. Anyway, they did. And they let me go home, and I got the red eye. But they're great, great, great guys.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice.
That's very cool. And I mean, you were also in another very famous movie, Forrest Gump. You were a bus driver in Forrest's childhood, and then you show up again at the very end of the movie as Forrest is putting his son on the school bus, and you're actually playing the same character, right? Right.
Well, SNL opened a lot of doors for me as far as getting into films. And anyway, so what was I? Sorry, my son is texting me right now from an airport. I hope he made his plane. So what were we just saying?
Forrest Gump, bus driver.
Forrest Gump. Oh, so SNL opened up a ton of doors for me. And when I went in for both Forrest Gump and Men in Black, I was going in for smaller parts. And I was like, no, these are the parts I want to play. So that was the deal.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, and they were like, all right, go for it. But Forrest Gump, who knew it was going to be that big of a hit? I mean, I remember when I got my first residual check, I almost fell down dead.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm assuming Tom Hanks remembered you from when you hosted when he hosted the show.
Tom Hanks remembered me. Tom's a great guy. He remembered me from when he hosted the show because I think we're in a game show sketch together. And we every day I'd be in the trailer with Tom Hanks. And, as you said, I was young and old. So they would be like blow drying my face to get ready for the second scene, which was what they call second unit because they had to get the big Vietnam scenes done first. And every day they'd be like, Siobhan, and I'd be looking like I was 100 years old with the age makeup on. And he'd be like, all okay? And I'm like, yeah. And they'd say, sorry, we're not going to get you today. And I was like, cha-ching, I don't care. Let's keep delaying my part. Because at that point I was being paid daily, which when you first an act, young actor, you are paid by the day.
Right. So you were like, another per diem. Nice.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Delay it some more. Shoot some more Vietnam stuff.
Right. And I imagine being on SNL kind of prepared you for work the fast-paced world of working on film sets because, as we've heard in numerous times, working on SNL, it's kind of its own thing, the way that whole machine worked at its own pace. It's so fast-paced.
Film is a piece of cake compared to SNL because film, they'll be like, okay, we're going to film this, and then we're going to do a close up, then we're going to get this angle, that angle. You have rehearsal, then they set up the lights. By the time they get to your scene, you're like, I'm not nervous at all, and we've done it so many times. SNL, it's like, into the frying pan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you basically have one time to get it right.
Exactly.
Right. So did all your training sort of prepare you for that? Or is it one of those things where you just had to kind of learn as you went?
I will say yes. However, I was never a cue card reader because I'm an actress. I want to know my lines. I want to have them memorized. So I didn't like the cue card deal. Sometimes I would quickly try to memorize my lines. Say a sketch was cut, say it wasn't cut with very, very little time. You had the day and you had in between, and then they would make changes. So I would never look at a cue card because I couldn't. That made me even more nervous than having the cue card.
Mm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been tough, especially with last minute rewrites coming through and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
One thing we haven't hit on is your time on Seinfeld. You played Elaine's roommate in some early episodes of the series, and you dated Kramer.
Yes. So the deal with that was Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David had been to this play that I did, American Splendor, and they called me in to audition for Elaine's roommate. Now, so I knew this girl in high school who got all the boys, and she talked really slow, and she'd be like, "Oh my God, you're so cute." And she knew this guy named Jerry, and she'd be like, "Jerry." And so basically I did an invitation to her. So I get the role, and Seinfeld had been only its first season. They didn't know if they're being picked up. So they were nervous because I believe I did the last episode of the first season or one of the last ones. And they were like, we don't know if we're going to get picked up. And so those people are the best. They work their rear ends off. Hard work pays off, and they're funny. So cut to, by the time I did the last episode, I did 3 of them. I was supposed to do a 4th one. SNL wouldn't let me out, but when I did the 4th one, that I was I Kramer's girlfriend in that one, or the Jehovah's Witnesses one, where I was like, that's why there's a buzzer, because I do cameos. My son signed
right.
cameo things. People always want me to do that's why there's a buzzer, or Jerry. So when I was on Seinfeld, the very first episode, Larry David calls me at home. He's like, Siobhan, I thought he was going to fire me. He said, listen, I got to cut your part down a little bit because, we have to fit this into 22 minutes. That's how long a half-hour sitcom is. I was like, no problem. I thought you were going to cut me. So if you watch the first episode that I'm in, I'm Elaine's roommate, and I come in and I asked the prop people for a water bottle. And I take the longest sip in the history of sips on TV to drag my part out. And I'm like, Jerry. And I had this improv class. And it was really, so I basically milked it, as we say. But anyway, no, that was amazing. And then Jerry was on SNL after that. So that was cool. And it was just, that show was top of the heap. So it was a real honor to be on it.
That's great. And all right. Well, I know you have to go soon. Are there any other stories that you want to hit on before we let you go?
Well, I would like to say that I'd like to do a shout out and honor Chris Farley, because he was a great friend and he was a fabulous guy. And not only on set was he supportive and hilarious and great to the audience, for autographs or anything. He was just a guy that would do anything for anyone. But we also were very good friends. He and my husband were good friends, and he went to the same church as me, Holy Trinity on 83rd Street. And we'd go every Sunday night late, because of course we'd been out till like 4 a.m. at the parties. But when I went to his memorial, you would expect famous people to be up there saying what a great guy he was. But it was a homeless guy who was in public housing, had been homeless, who he used to bring meals to. So that's the kind of guy that Chris Farley was. And when I think of SNL, I think of what an unbelievable guy he was, and what a great family he came from, and how lucky I was to call him my friend.
Wow. That's great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. So, well, thank you so much for doing this. Why don't you give us the basic info again for Rush, so where people can check that out? I know that's premiering soon.
So Rush will be in theaters. Rush will be in theaters all over the country, Staten Island, New York, Florida, all over. On August 27th, it stars Robert Patrick from The Terminator. It stars Jake Weary from Animal Kingdom. Perry Gilpin from Frasier's on it. It's directed by Vivica Messiah. In theaters August 27th, but it will also be on video on demand on the same day on Apple, iTunes, and many video platforms. It's a thriller about a mom who goes toe-to-toe with a frat boy, and it's a great movie, so I hope you'll come out and watch it.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to check that out.
Yeah, and for all our Jersey listeners, you could check it out. It'll be at the Count Basie Theater down in Red Bank on the 27th.
Also, it's going to be Count Basie August 27th. It's going to be in Atlantic Highlands August 27th. It's going to be at the Atrium on Arthur Kill Road in Staten Island. It's going to be at the Kent Theater in Brooklyn and Malvern Theater in Long Island. It's going to be all over the place: Rochester, Albany, Syracuse, everywhere. And if you can't find it in your hometown, watch it on Apple or iTunes.
All right. Okay. Well, we will be sure to check that out. We're looking forward to it. And
thank you so much, you guys, for having me.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. And we love hearing all your stories.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So. And I guess that's the episode, guys. Thanks again for listening. As always, you can rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Please do all that things. And of course, donate to our Patreon, Non-Productive.com. And you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Darren Credible. That's DARIN Credible.
Oh, but I forgot to say this, Darren. Oh. You can follow the movie at Rushed Movie on Instagram or on Facebook, or hashtag Rushed Movie when you post. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right. And I'm also on Twitter and Instagram at Trumbull Comic. That's TRUMBULL and the word comic. And you can follow the show's Twitter page at SNL Nerds Show. It looks like we finally have worked out most of our problems with that. So, check us out there. And we're going to be back next week. I think next week, Darren, we were doing Schmigadoon, right?
That's right. We're talking about Schmigadoon, the Apple Plus TV show with Cecily Strong, Keegan-Michael Key. Who else is in there? Martin Short's in there. Got Fred Armisen in there. And the whole thing is produced by the great Mr. Lorne Michaels. So we're going to...
There you go.
So,
Nice.
tune in for that.
All right. So we will be back with that next week. But until then,
Nerds out.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.